Hey man, how you doing? This stream is going to be all about TIFF and what I have planned. I'm going to be telling you uh, most of my plans, basically everything, and I'll be reading the write-ups for the movies I intend on seeing. So I'm going to land in Toronto. I'll get to Toronto at like 2 o'clock. Got a 6 hour bus ride here from Ottawa. So then I'll 8 to 2. I'm on the bus. So on Wednesday, that's what's up first. The first piece of business. Then I'm going to go to the pass pickup desk at the Industry Center at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Get there, before 3. That's the plan. Then I'll check into my Airbnb in Mississauga, which is a bit of a trek. And after that, I have some tentative evening plans, but I'm not going to get into that. So that's day 1. So I'm just I like to get ahead of things. I like to stay on top of things. I like to be able to do TIFF stuff the next morning, not like in the afternoon. I want to be right there. So I always go the day before TIFF to Toronto. And this year is no different. So, my first piece of business on September 7th is I'm going to a press and programmer breakfast from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. roughly somewhere in the Bisha Hotel. All right, whatever. And now movies. I have a big movie day on September 7th. At 11:45 a.m., I'm going to see The Zone of Interest. At 3 p.m., I'll see Orlando, my political biography. 6:45 p.m., I will see Shadow of Fire by the great Shida Tsukamoto. And then at 9:30 p.m., I will see Kill. So let's unpackage all of that. Why not? So first thing, Zone of Interest. Let's read about this. I'm really excited for this one. And I might do an interview or a red carpet for this. If I can't get the interview, I'll do the red carpet. Either way, I'm very excited to see this film. So it's by Jonathan Glazer. It's a Canadian premiere. So he won the Grand Prix at this year's Cannes for this horror about Auschwitz commandant Rudolf Höss and his wife, who quite literally live amongst the ashes of their actions. Master of Portraiture, Jonathan Glazer, Under the Skin, with Scarlett Johansson, 2013. I'm a big fan of his movie, Sexy Beast. I think that is the finest performance that Ben Kingsley has given in that film. So, he was awarded the Grand Prix at this year's Cannes Film Festival. The Zone of Interest is adapted from a 2014 novel, the same title, by Martin Amis. Now, if you don't know Martin Amis, he's a really great novelist. I started one of his books. I don't know why I didn't finish it. It was called Money, and it's 80s zeitgeist, living that Wall Street life, more money, more sex, more coke, that kind of thing. Lots of fun, very crazy. It was a captivating read. I don't have that book anymore. I don't know what the hell happened to it. Anyways, so when I hear Sexy Beast and Martin Amis, I'm just and it's like a World War II story. I'm instantly sold. So the film centers on the domestic life of Hedwig and Rudolf Höss, beneficiaries of a Lebensraum, whose family home, nestled between train tracks and gas chambers, is spitting distance from Auschwitz, the infamous German concentration camp located in occupied Poland, where Rudolf serves as commandant. Towards the final days of the Holocaust, Hedwig is fixated on his self-preservation, while Rudolf is increasingly burdened by his duties. We reside inside the family's encampment with background voices of ghost-like prisoners muffled by the perpetrator's quotidian musings. At one point, Hedwig and her atrocious friends joke about their new luxury goods received from Canada. The nickname of the storage facilities where such items, after being confiscated, were stored at the demise of their former neighbors. Shot on location, The Zone of Interest weds banal and overt acts of evil with unforgettable reminders of resistance. It was shot in monochrome by thermal imaging cameras. And just as we can't take anymore, the film gives a crushing nod to Joshua Oppenheimer's act of killing, which is awesome. Great documentary. Big fan of Joshua Oppenheimer. Hauntingly scored by Misa Levy and shot by Lucas Zal, who did Cold War back in 2018. Yeah, Cold War is a good movie. This film will stay with you for a long time, for better or for worse. Yeah, it's gonna be a rough start to the day. And then Orlando. Here we go. So this is from France. Yes, from France. Okay. In Orlando, my political biography, theorist, critic, and curator Paul Brachado takes Virginia Woolf's classic novel as a starting point for a bold, joyous reflection on the nature of contemporary trans life and a celebration of queerness. I do not owe this survival instinct to psychoanalysis or psychology. Quite the reverse. I owe it to books, to feminist, punk, and anti-racist, and lesbian books. So Orlando, my political biography, is the rousing, heady debut feature by theorist, critic, and curator Paul B. Brachado. When prodded by peers to write about his experience of transition, he remarks wryly that Virginia Woolf had already done so. The work in reference is her classic 1928 novel, centered on the life of an androgynous aristocrat who changes their gender over several centuries, a literary masterwork that serves here as a starting point for a bold, free-form reflection on the nature of contemporary trans life and a celebration of queerness. Playfully maximalist, locating the ribald alongside the sober, and erudition with the plain-spoken, Brachado transmutes Woolf's love of language into an equally joyous appreciation of cinematic form, trading his own story and the novel's sole protagonist for a multi-dunous collective experience. The result is a film of not one Orlando, but several. Collaborating with an intergenerational group of trans and non-binary performers, the participants recite passages from the novel, share personal stories, and act out stage sequences, deftly situating the institutions of gender and sexuality alongside interrelated social, medical, and legal frameworks in order to confront and console each. Smart, precise, deeply generous, and least of all, fun. Orlando, my political biography, takes inspiration from the past while remaining adamantly grounded in the present and buoyed by commitments to a liberatory future. Okay. There's so much going on there. It's a wavelength, so it's going to be weird. And I really just need to see it to believe it. Sounds cool, though. And I hope I get that interview. I'm supposed to interview that director. They said if I can see it on the ground, maybe it'll happen. So, I'm going to take my chances. And I'm going to try to see it right afterwards. So, yeah, it's going to be a big day. Big day. Now, I'm very excited for this film. Big Shida Tsukamoto fan. So, his latest examines the desperate lives of Japanese citizens in the immediate post-World War II period through the story of a child dealing with unimaginable adversity. Part of his war trilogy, which includes Fire on the Plains and Killing. I have not seen Fire on the Plains, but I have seen Killing. Shida Tsukamoto's latest examines the lives of Japanese citizens in the immediate post-World War II period. Part chamber drama, part road movie, Shadow of Fire finds its through line in the story of a small boy coming of age amid unimaginable hardship. In a derelict ramen house, a woman earns money by offering the only collateral she has left, her body. A young soldier comes seeking her services, though his need for comfort outweighs his lust. He tries to forge a relationship with both the woman and the little boy who visits her nightly, all of them bereft of family due to the firebombing that laid waste to their city. When the soldier suddenly lashes out, this Razat's family is reduced to two, until the woman's inability to process her own trauma forces the boy to leave. The boy joins a man on a journey. Cheerful by day, the man whimpers in his sleep, reviving the horror on his past and nightmares. He has a scheme to exact retribution on the person who caused these horrors and plans to implicate his innocent companion. Reminiscent of the best films of Kenido Shindo. Shadow of Fire pierces the fragile psyches of ordinary people, reeling from their proximity to extraordinary violence. Tsukamoto's synthesis of form and theme is ingenious, and the extra moments his camera spends locking gazes with his characters speaks volumes about their suffering. Yeah, I have Killing on Blu-ray. I might watch it tonight. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, he's cool. You should watch, for my crazy people out there, watch Tetsuo the Iron Man. That's just sweet, great movie. But that is something for a conversation on another day. And then Kill. So that's what I'm going to see. My last movie of the first day is Kill. 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 Ah. So, world premiere. So, in Nikhil Nagesh's Bat's relentless martial arts thriller, a passenger train bound for New Delhi becomes a bloody battleground of brutal quarters combat as a pair of commandos square off against a 40-strong army of invading bandits. Star-crossed lovers, Tulika and Amrit, find their clandestine relationship jeopardized after Tulika's family whisks her aboard the Rajdhani Express bound for both New Delhi and an arranged marriage. Not willing to sit idly by, Amrit and his fellow commando buddy Varish embark on a romantic rescue mission, but when the train is suddenly stormed by a gang of blade-wielding bandits, the stakes are considerably raised, and the two friends must rely on their martial arts prowess to dispatch the thieves and save the passengers. Inspired by real-life train robberies in India by a class of criminals known as Dacoits, Kill laces its high-content premise with familial melodrama that cuts across both sides of the battle lines. Desperate to protect Tulika and her family, Amrit and Varish parry all manner of knives into gangster heads, shoulders, knees, and toes. And as the body count rises, so too does the ire of the crooks, especially that of the clan's psychotic black sheep Fanny, portrayed with charismatic lunacy by Raghav Jual, with action entirely restricted to the moving train. Kill's gory momentum and claustrophobic confines recall Midnight Madness with classics like Gareth Evans' The Raid and Kim Han-sun's Project Wolf Hunting. I did an interview for that last year. And director Nikhil Nagesh Bhatt judiciously ensures that each car from caboose to cab contains a unique set piece of bloody close-quarter combat, courtesy of veteran action choreographers Si Yun Oh and Parviz Sheikh. So, I promise you've never seen a Berserk Lovesick Commando repurpose a fire extinguisher quite like this. All right. Thanks for that, Peter. I can't wait. Sounds fantastic. Kind of sounds like The Raid or Die Hard to me with a single setting. All right. And so, September 8th. So that's Friday. At 8:45 a.m., I plan on seeing Gonzo Girl on 11... just because I want to. Just because I like Hunter S. Thompson. And then at 11:15, I want to see Working Class Goes to Hell. And I do... looks like I'll probably interview that director. So we'll talk about that momentarily. And then 5 p.m., I will attend a CBC industry... Well, sorry. It's just at the CBC building. It's a TIFF industry happy hour. So there's 4 of those. I plan on going to 2 of them. And then at 9:45 p.m., I would like to see Snow Leopard. So we will see about all this stuff. Maybe I won't see Gonzo Girl. Maybe I won't see Snow Leopard. I'll certainly see Working Class Goes to Hell, though. And I'll try to do that happy hour. So let's read about him. We'll start with Gonzo Girl. There you go. Willem Dafoe's Hunter S. Thompson. Willem Dafoe and Camilo Morone star in Patricia Arquette's high-flying, fast-paced directorial debut based on Cheryl Della Pietra's semi-autobiographical novel chronicling her time as Hunter S. Thompson's personal assistant. That sounds like... I don't know about like a job from hell, but it would be a heck of a ride. And Patricia Arquette's Gonzo Girl, aspiring writer and current bartender, Ali Russo, has been handpicked to be the newest assistant to the legendary father of Gonzo journalism, Walker Reed, played by the always revelatory and electric Willem Dafoe. The film is based on the semi-autobiographical 2015 book of the same title by Cheryl Del Pietra, who survived a 3-day trial period involving a 44 Magnum purple pyramid acid, violent verbal outbursts, brushes with fame and the law, a bevy of peacocks, and a whole lot of cocaine to work for Hunter S. Thompson. In the early 90s, Walker, living in the Rocky Mountains at the after party of his heyday, is working on a new novel to revise his readership. He is under constant pressure from the public, publishers, and hangers on alike. His long-term manager, Claudia, is around and is a newish love interest, Devotee, fights by a garden of flower children growing in the wrong era. Enter Ali, who follows 8 other assistants who couldn't hack it and, high out of their minds, flew the proverbial coop. It's not long before Ali realizes that Walker, who hasn't written anything good in 15 years, and whose Breakfast of Champions is a reel and a shot, is stuck inside a gilded rut, and getting pages out of him is a Sisyphean, I don't know what that is, endeavor. So she starts writing her own story. Opening this year's Discovery program, Arquette's directorial debut is a whirlwind and ornately beguiling reminder to never lose who you are in the madness. Yeah, I mean, Hunter S. Thompson definitely fell off in the 80s. It's kind of weird that they're making a movie about him in the 90s, but maybe we won't see. I don't know. We'll see. It is quite early. Maybe I'm just looking for an excuse not to wake up so early. This one looks like fun. Working class goes to hell, coming from Serbia. A small town labor union turns to the dark arts for empowerment against the corrupt forces of the community. 5 years after a factory fire claimed the lives of several workers, and with them the primary livelihood of a rural Balkan town, the plant's union is met with a debilitating blow in their fight for reparations. Long suspected of causing the fire in order to privatize their property, the owners have succeeded in evading legal consequences, and the workers are cast as ungrateful nuisances, obstinate in the face of capitalistic progress. Stoic labor leader Checha refuses to give up hope, but her position grows tenuous when the collective begins to develop a fascination with the pagan practices of its newest member, Misha. After Misha leads the union in a ritual that belies a satanic undertone, strange occurrences begin to be reported around the town, including the enigmatic manifestation of a decrepit man seen stalking the most corrupt citizens. Serbian vanguard filmmaker Mladen Dordovic once more offers up a view of the disturbing absurdities of life under an oppressive oligarchy, and as with his notorious cult hit, Life and Death of a Porto Gang, his incisive reflections transcend typical genre trappings. And as his proletarian protagonists turn towards the supernatural, Dordovic skillfully soaks their increasingly eldritch activity in an absorbing Cicero horror aesthetic, conjuring a malaise of uncomfortable dread. Yet, he also impressively cuts his tone with such sly and sardonic satire, not to mention a healthy dose of irreverence, full frontal nudity. One is reminded that sometimes the only salvation for the working class, besides solidarity, is a sharp sense of humor. Yeah, it's a hysterical idea for a movie. When Peter told me about it, I was cracking up. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to see that. 100%. And now something else that I may or may not see is Snow Leopard. We will see. So this is coming from Tibet. Tibet, China, whatever. The late Pema Sedin directed this beautiful tale of a majestic but deadly snow leopard and its complicated relationship with the communities of the Tibetan plateau. Pema Sedin was a Tibetan writer and filmmaker, the first one in China to make films entirely shot in Tibet. His rare talent, quiet yet immense, was that of an artist capable of interpreting with lucid precision the culture of his ethnic minority and of describing their sometimes difficult relationship with the bureaucracy and the laws of central government, physically and spiritually, very distant from his native Queen Hai. You see, the past tense when writing about Pema doesn't feel right. It's a painful reminder of the sudden death that caught him in the prime of his artistic maturity last May, when so many more important movies were waiting for him to shoot them. Snow Leopard was completed at the end of April, just a couple of weeks before his passing. The beautiful tale of a majestic but deadly snow leopard and its complicated relationship with the communities of the Tibetan plateau is told through the eyes of a local television crew director and his former schoolmate, a monk passionate about photography. While the monk's brother, a herder who has suffered the loss of 9 rams mauled by the leopard, wants to kill the beast, the religious man who seems to subliminally communicate with the animal, wants to save it at all costs. and so do the local policemen. Snow Leopard is a magical, memorable visual stunning film. It's another exquisite drama by Pema and an empathic portrait of the modern dynamics affecting the pastoral society in Tibet. TIFF will forever miss Pema. What else did he do? He did Jimpa. Yeah, Jimpa's sweet. I guess I have to see it. I think I saw Old Dog in class. Damn. Yeah, I'll try to check it out. Sick. Yeah, Jimpa's amazing. Area watch Jimpa. So that's the first 2 days, and now September 9th. I'm looking at What Evil Lurks at 8:45 a.m. At 11:45, I might see Woman of the Hour, and then there is a press cocktail happening from 5 to 7 at the Artscape Sandbox. So that's cool. Got to do that. It's nice that TIFF has these formal press events, because I don't remember that happening before. Give us some love. So let's look at that. When Evil Lurks. So we went from 4 to 3 to 2. And I've already seen 6 movies from TIFF. 6 or 7. I don't really know. So this is from Argentina. And this shocking supernatural chiller from Argentine master of horror, Demian Rugna, two brothers race to prevent the spawning of evil incarnate as an epidemic of demonic possessions spreads through their rural community. Something, or more accurately, someone is rotten to the state of Argentina. In this context, rotten refers to a kind of demonic infection that consumes its host, transforming them into a vessel for evil incarnate. When brothers Pedro and Jimmy discover that a rotten has been festering in a nearby farmhouse, its very proximity poisoning the local livestock, they attempt to evict the victim from their land. Failing to adhere to the proper rites of exorcism, their reckless actions inadvertently trigger an epidemic of possessions across their rural community. Now they must outrun an encroaching evil as it corrupts and mutilates every man, woman, and child it is exposed to, and enlist the aid of a wizened cleaner who holds the only tools that can stop the supernatural plague. A wildly original take on Satanic Panic, What Evil Lurks is the latest supernatural shocker from writer director Demian Rugna, whose last film, Terrified, similarly served up a series of finely tuned scares and grotesque nightmare imagery. Eschewing conventional exposition, Rugna trickles the unique rules and lore that define these viral possessions across the brothers' struggle to combat the chaos, and soaks the escalating terror with brutality that recalls the gory extremities of Lucio Fulci's City of the Living Dead, and the hopeless horror of Narciso Ibanez Serrador's Who Could Kill a Child. Yeah, Peter did that analogy with me in our interview. And I love City of the Living Dead. Big Fulci guy over here. So, we got One Evil Lurks, and then Woman of the Hour, right. Which I want to see. Definitely. I don't, I might not, it just sort of depends on what's happening that day. So this the directorial debut of Anna Kendrick. Anna Kendrick's directorial debut examines uncomfortable gender dynamics with the stranger-than-fiction story of Rodney Alcala's appearance in the dating game in the middle of his 1970s murder spree. In the 1970s, Rodney Alcala went on a murder spree, luring women by posing as a photographer looking for models. Though already a registered sex offender and recently released from prison, he infamously appeared on the dating game, a show that introduced a set of 3 new bachelors each week, hidden from view as women asked them amusing questions before choosing the winner to go on all expenses paid trip with her. Anna Kendrick's directorial debut uses a stranger-than-fiction story to examine the distressing dynamics of gender. In addition to directing, Kendrick also placed Cheryl Bradshaw, the struggling actor, who decided to book an appearance on the show where she would have a chilling run-in with Alcala. While this confrontation serves as the spine of the film, we're taken backwards and then forward through time, exploring Alcala's murders with a performance by Daniel Zovada that captures the disquieting hubris of a man who knows he's operating in a world too skewed to catch him. Instead of dwelling on the gruesome details that often preoccupy true crime tales, Kendrick uses the case to make an incisive statement on the way women are forced to navigate their encounters with men. In addition to being an intelligent metaphor for those uncomfortable nuances, Woman of the Hour also harbors a dark truth. When you're confronted by the rage of men, the only way to make it out alive is to play the game. Yeah, it definitely seems like a neat take on something grisly. Yeah, I liked Alice Darling last year. I covered the red carpet of that, so I got a soft spot for Anna Kendrick now. Interested to see what she's got. All right, so September 10th, I have three, maybe four movies plans. Yeah, so the first one is Sly at 9 a.m. Documentary with Stallone. We'll talk about it in a second. 11:35 is The Holdovers. 3:40 p.m. is The Monk and the Gun. And then at 9:30 p.m., I would like to see a public screening of Monster by Hirokazu Kurita. However, as of now, tickets are not available. So, might have to adjust a little bit there. We will see, though. We will see, we will see, we will see. So let's get into Sly first. Sylvester Stallone looks back on his life and career in this valedictory documentary directed by Tom Zimney. Who is Sylvester Stallone? He's Rocky Balboa, of course, and also John Rambo and Barney Ross, the guy who runs the team of Asian action heroes known as the Expendables. But he's also an artist who spent the last half century trying to prove he's more than just a guy from Hell's Kitchen. To his critics, to his family, and most of all to himself. As Stallone literally packs up his stuff to move from Palm Beach from Hollywood, filmmaker Tom Zimney, who hung out with Bruce Springsteen for the thoughtful, casually valedictory documentary Western Stars, helps him sift through his metaphorical baggage and comes to terms with his status as a cultural touchstone. Sly shows us Stallone's rough beginnings in New York City as a troubled kid who'd escape his angry household to watch movies all day with his brother Frank Jr. And then come home to write scripts himself. Zimney leads Stallone through his roller coaster career, which exploded when Rocky, a role he had to fight to play, despite having written the damn movie, catapulted him to a level of stardom for which he was entirely unprepared. And finally, the documentary sees its subject to explore, perhaps for the first time, how the vulnerability and reflexive kindness of Rocky Balboa led him to spend decades filtering his own impossible experiences through drama and be the man he always wanted to be. There's a reason it was the role of his life. I mean, I like Stallone, so I want to see this. And I believe it's coming to Netflix. Right. This looks pretty good. Alexander Payne. Paul Giamatti stars in Alexander Payne's latest about the bond that forms between a strict professor and a belligerent student he's stuck supervising over the winter holiday at an elite boarding school. Barton men don't lie. This is just one of many rules Professor Hunnam takes much too seriously as he hands out poor grades at an elite boarding school in 1971. As he dismisses the politics that come along with educating the children of people in high places, he's punished by the headmaster who gives him a most undesirable assignment for the winter break: to stay at school and supervise the students who are unable to go home. Hunnam resolves to have the students suffer with him, forcing them to start studying next semester's curriculum ahead of time. Among them, 15-year-old Angus, bright but belligerent, makes a ruckus. Teacher and student become foes, antagonizing one another and tiring themselves out, as Mary, the school cafeteria manager, observes from the sidelines, herself alone after recently losing her son in the Vietnam War. As the petulant pair succumb to the depressing truth that they've got little else but each other this holiday season, Professor Hunnam starts to soften up, and they begin to see themselves in one another. Giamatti gives a career-high performance as the risible teacher who delights in doling out punishment, while newcomer Sessa makes an immediate name for himself, revealing layers of complexity to this character's rebellious nature. With The Holdovers, director Alexander Payne makes a delicate point about how a first impression never tells the whole truth, and shows that pains and tragedies that feel too specific to us actually make us a lot more alike than unalike. Aha. Okay. And now some stuff from Asia. The monk and the gun. So it's from Bhutan. People think there's no movies in Bhutan. This movie's Bhutan. Set in 2006, when the Kingdom of Bhutan began its transition to democracy, this playful ensemble drama from writer-director Pawa Shohain Dorji is a poignant parable about the impossibility of embracing modernity without reckoning with the past. The year 2006 marked a historical turning point for the Kingdom of Bhutan. With the abdication of its king, it began its journey to becoming the world's youngest democracy. Following the adventures of monks, villagers, urbanites, and one hapless foreigner, this big-hearted ensemble drama captures the moments of transition in all its strangeness and wonder. As Bhutan has never experienced an election, government officials stage a mock election as a training exercise, though even registering folks to vote is a challenge in regions where people don't know their birth dates. In the village of Ura, an elderly lama, recognizing the great change sweeping his country, instructs a monk to obtain a pair of guns. Meanwhile, Benji takes a gig hosting and translating for Ron, an American antique arms collector who has come to purchase a coveted 19th century rifle. With a tremendous fee on offer, Ron assumes the transaction will be a slam dunk. He fails to anticipate that, just as the Bhutanese are unfamiliar with democracy, they're also less persuadable when it comes to the laws of commerce. Helmed by Pawo Choin Dorji, director of 2019's Oscar-nominated Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom. I saw that movie. And set against Bhutan's snaking streams and verdant hills, the monk of the gun delays explaining the title's juxtaposition until late in the story, at which point this playful, wise film becomes a poignant parable about the impossibility of embracing modernity without reckoning with the past. And then we're going to look at the movie, which I hope to see, but probably won't, Monster. Maybe we can make it work. Let's see. No. It's doing conflicts. I can't do the press reading. Yeah, it's not going to work. Alright, see the zone of interest. Acclaimed Japanese auteur Hirokazu Korida returns to his homeland with a powerful yet delicate story of love and humanity and a moral tale about school bullying, scored by the late Ryuichi Sakamoto. After a detour in France and South Korea, Hirokazu Korida returns to his homeland to reconnect with the roots that nourish the deepest spirit of his cinema. His art thrives on subtle, delicate emotions, disregards the obvious, and explores the ordinariness and variables of the human experience. Quiet and reserved, Minato, no longer a kid but not yet an adolescent, lost his father when he was a young child and lives with his mother. When he starts behaving strangely, obsessed with the idea his brain has been switched with the pigs, the mother suspects his teacher, Hori, and calls him meeting with the school principal, only to face a wall of silence and stiff apologies. Someone must have put the idea in Minato's head, but something doesn't add up. Is Minato telling the truth, or is his professor innocent? Looking at the story from various points of view in a Rashomon-inspired structure, oh yeah, reality changes and the actual subject becomes the hidden friendship between Minato and one of his schoolmates, often bullied by other kids. A great storyteller of family dynamics, Korida shows us once again his unique ability to depict the inner world of children unveiling uncomfortable realities with a natural and necessary tenderness. A milestone in his impressive body of work, Monster is marked by two major collaborations, one with screenwriter Sakamoto Yuji, and the other with legendary musician Ryuichi Sakamoto, who died last March, Monster being his last soundtrack. Yeah, I guess a legend. And I probably won't see it, and that sucks. I'm just... I have to accept that, I guess. And now... we've got 3 more days planned. Ugh. Okay, so... on September 11th, I plan on seeing at 9:30 a.m. Irina's Vow. At 11:30 a.m., I will most certainly see 100 Yards because I'm going to interview those directors. And then I've got... wait. Something's not right here. I seem to be finding gaps in my schedule. No, no, no. Something's all wrong. I'll figure this out though. Yeah, so 100 yards and Irina's vow, and then a couple interviews. But what I don't think is correct. But the other one is what is it? Humanist. I've already seen this movie. Humanist vampire seeking consenting suicidal person. It's a movie from Montreal. You'll learn about it later. I'm just talking about what I'm going to see. I'm not talking about movies I've already seen. I'm talking about stuff I'm going to see. So, two bitter rivals duel for a stewardship of a wushu academy in this cool and calculated martial arts caper from Zhu Ho Fen. Yeah. With respect to the martial arts genre, writer, director, and choreographer, not to mention celebrated novelist and Taoist scholar, Zhu Ho Fen is in a class all his own. There are a few contemporary filmmakers of the genre who devise their duels with a comparable level of authenticity and grounded technique, and fewer still who are able to so evocatively abuse such dense symbolic weight to their characters' every stance, weapon, and fighting style. A fight in a Zhu Ho Fen film is both a dance and a conversation, each movement pregnant with philosophy and sly wit, and each bout more enthralling and illuminating than the last. Can't wait to interview this dude. Written and directed in collaboration with Zhu Junfen, this latest martial saga is set in the 1920s Tianjin, China. Upon the death of a well-respected martial arts master, two students become bitter rivals as they vie for ownership of his academy. One is the master's top apprentice, Kui, the expected heir to the school. His challenger is the master's son, Zhen, whose future was meant to be outside the martial arts circle were it not for his obstinate passion to pursue his father's practice. The dispute is to be settled in combat, but its outcome stirs only malcontent, and as the challenges between the two fighters multiply, customs become stretched and broken to the scandalized shock of their wushu community. Further featuring slingshots, gangs, secret scrolls, eccentric weapons, and a touch of whimsical romantic melodrama, 100 Yards is a stylish martial arts caper, simultaneously stoic and playfully funny, and is coolly composed yet thrillingly percussive execution. Blah. And so it's always a Midnight Madness movie. Peter Capaldi told me about this movie, and then it sounded cool, and now I got an interview lined up for it. Oh, we didn't do Irina's vow. I got distracted. That's another World War II movie, though. Oh, okay. This has been going on for a minute, huh? Okay. In occupied Poland, a former nurse risked her own life to shelter a dozen Jewish men and women from the Nazi war machine. Warsaw, 1939, when the Nazis invade Poland, nurse Irina Gut is displaced and forced to work in support of the German war effort, eventually assigned to run the home of a Nazi commandant. Instead of following the path of least resistance and gambling on her status and ethnicity to keep her safe, Gut risked everything to save a dozen Jewish refugees from persecution and murder, sheltering them under her boss's nose. With fascism proudly elbowing its way onto the national stage, it sadly feels urgent and necessary to give this story a dramatic spotlight. Adapted by Dan Gordon from his stage play and directed by Quebecois filmmaker Louis Archambault, working in a very different mode from her previous dramas, Familia, Gabriel, and The Birds Rain Down, Irina's Vow is at its heart a story of simple moral clarity. It's all anchored by a powerful performance from the empathetic Nelise, who's grown from a child actor in Monsieur Lazare and Endorphin to confident young star Mean Dreams and hit television series Yellow Jackets. Here she channels the alternating shock, disbelief, and horror of an innocent who's forced over and over again to negotiate an impossible situation, always racing to ensure not just her friend's survival, but her own. Yeah, sounds cool. So that's the 11th. And now on the 12th, I got a few things planned. I'm going to see Poolman. I wanted to see Hitman. It was a public screening, though. And it doesn't look like it's going to work. And then I'm going to go to a TIFF Industry Happy Hour. My second and final one. And then I want to see Aggro Drift at 9:40 p.m. All right. So Pool Man sounds really cool. I'm going to tell you about it right now. Chris Pine makes his directorial debut with a kinetic noir comedy where he plays an anxious pool cleaner who uncovers a curious conspiracy in the city of Los Angeles. Boasting a brilliant cast that includes Jennifer Jason Leigh, Annette Bening, and Danny DeVito, Chris Pine's directorial debut is a noir comedy about an anxious pool cleaner who unravels a curious conspiracy in the city of Los Angeles. Every morning, Darren especially cleans the pool of his low-rise apartment block. A Zen ritual he performs with exacting precision, partly because it's the one thing he can actually nurture in his beloved city. He looks up to Aaron Brockovich's example of social justice, writing daily letters to her about his failing fight for a better bus schedule. But after an embarrassing scuffle at a city council meeting, he hits rock bottom until a femme fatale named June Del Rey shows up at his pool step with an intriguing piece of information. Darren sees it as an opportunity to save Los Angeles. To get to the bottom of the case, he ropes in his idiosyncratic friends, his Pilates instructor girlfriend, Susan, his therapist, Diane, and her husband, Jack, a washed-up director who's shooting a documentary on what might actually prove to be a dangerous conspiracy. With his wry spin on Chinatown, Pines puts his superb comic instincts to use behind the lens, while delivering a charismatic performance as the sincere and shaggy ne'er-do-well, who just wants to make his city a better place. Released by Andrew Bird, and a charming production design that sees the iconography of noir classics in a modern-day setting, Pool Man is a sunny remix of a dark genre that proves a kinetic joy. Well, thank you, Cameron Bailey. Yeah, it sounds like some cool stuff right there. It's definitely the kind of movie I want to see. And we'll read about Hitman, even though I probably won't see it. Richard Linklater in the house. Yeah, it would have been cool. Oh, but it could happen. Probably not, though. The latest from Richard Linklater reunites the prolific indie auteur with Everybody Wants Some, Glenn Powell, for a sort of true crime comedy thriller about a role-play romance and a precarious pursuit of self-knowledge. Gary Johnson is a philosophy professor by day, lecturing his students on theories of morality. In his downtime, he works with police and surveillance fans and a tech-savvy staff investigator during undercover sting operations. When the temperamental officer, who normally plays the role of hitman, is placed on leave for misconduct, Milquetoast Gary is asked to step in because he vaguely resembles the ousted officer. To everyone's surprise, Gary thrives impersonating the fabricated killers. One day, Gary, in character as Ron, the charismatic lone wolf hitman, meets would-be client Madison, who is desperate to get out of her abusive marriage. Sparks fly. Soon he reaches out to Madison outside of their arrangement to start a decidedly non-professional but steamy flame. But as Gary attempts to keep his various personas separate, his lies accumulate, and someone actually ends up dead. He finds himself in the middle of a real crime with all the evidence leading back to him. With Hitman, director Richard Linklater crafts one of his most playful explorations of the individual and the way moral philosophy maps onto everyday lives and seemingly small moments, a thematic landscape he's mastered over 30 years of filmmaking. I want to see it. Co-writer and producer Powell is irrepressible in montages of Gary going method into the psychology of his fictional assassins and created elaborate costumes so gleeful, similar to those of certain pop culture icons. Buoyed by crackling chemistry with Arjona, he radiates charm throughout his comedic adventure. Sounds cool. Wait. September 12th. I can see this instead of Pool Man. The pool on the 12th. But I would like to see both. To be honest with you. And it looks like the one on the 12th is not the one with Richard Linklater at the house. Oh well. Oh well. And then, oh yeah, we're going to talk about the Trippy movie. Can't wait. So I use this on my thumbnail with the Peter Kapowski interview that's coming out. I can't, because I'm so for it. Spell binding infrared photography conjures a hallucinatory portrait of a haunted assassin and the sensuous experimental elegy from Harmony Korine. In his 2012 program note for Harmony Korine's Spring Breakers, TIFF Midnight Madness founder Noah Cohen observed that the visionary director thinks of pictures that no one else could ever dream of. Such original imaginings persisted Korine's egg group drift, his latest sensory experiment, interpolating much of the artist's patented proclivities with a radically chimeric visual style, achieved through spell-binding infrared photography and a phantasmagoric animation. The film orbits around a melancholic assassin named B.O. as he prepares to vanquish a demonic crime lord in a Floridian realm of vivid pinks, blazing yellows, and deep purples. But the particulars of its minimalist plot are largely mute. The vibe is what's paramount. Enveloped by an extraordinary electronic score by Era Music, who I've seen perform here in Ottawa, in a bar that's no longer around, Korine conjures a parade of arresting imagery that seems to emulate and interrogate contemporary genre cliches, while sincerely mining profound poetry from platitudes on violence and love. B.O.'s elliptical traversals through Miami, which take on mythical dimension, aesthetically recall the reverse spheres of crime-ridden video games like Grand Theft Auto. Sweet. And its inhabitants, which include rapper Travis Scott as a literal snake-tongued militia leader, recite and repeat dialogue with the amusing dissonance of the hasty dubbing of a non-playable character. The assassin himself is haunted by the specter of an enormous computer-generated demon. So it's like some simulation theory, that's funny. Which synchronously manifests alongside him as if it were bound by the algorithmic rules of a simulation. I think simulation theory is stupid, but it's entertaining. And what is at once a hallucinatory pastiche and an elegiac reflection of a chaotic world, Korine probes a new aesthetic frontier that finds a mesmerizing magic to its brutality. So that'll be fun at night. I'll definitely have a couple drinks before that. Or during. So I'm thinking on the 13th, I want to see Seven Veils at 11:45. I want to see after the and I might actually interview Adam McGowan. It's not a no yet. Could happen. And I did interview the dude before. And then at 5:10 p.m. is After the Fire, and then at 9:30 p.m. I'm thinking I'll do a public screening at Flipside, but I haven't got that figured out yet. And then so let's get it. Seven Veils. This is a big deal for TIFF. This is the last day of screenings. I'll be in charge the next day, but I'll do some interviews and just kind of hang out. Presented in part. No, I don't need to hear this. Adam McGowan and his Chloe star Amanda Seyfried reunite for this naughty psychodrama about a young theater director forced to re-examine her own trauma while we're working on a remount of Salome. Bequeathed a job remounting a Canadian opera company production of Salome after the death of his revered creator, her mentor, a young director, is forced to re-examine her tangled personal history with the projects, the deceased man, and her own family. Recently separated from her husband, Seyfried's Janine finds herself adrift, trying to explain her vision to the confused opera stars and taking comfort in reconnecting with an old friend who's understudying the role of Joshin. His fellow understudy worries she's about to miss her only chance to play Salome with her partner, prop master Clea, turns into a dangerous situation with the blustering star Johann. For decades, Adam McGowan's cinema has been exploring families shattered by loss and betrayal, parents and children becoming alien to one another, and the tangles of legacies and monomania. Seven Veils continues his icy fascination with the manipulation and abuse as entitlement impose their will on the woman in their orbits and leave them to deal with the fallout. This project lets Egoyan indulge in his longtime love of opera, incorporating this year's COC production of Salome, which he directed, into the film and casting stars Kupfer Radicki and Amber Braid as fictional performers. And his reunion with Seyfried, who played the eponymous role in his drama Chloe, lets the star demonstrate a range she rarely gets the chance to explore. I didn't see Chloe. But yeah, it sounds cool. I mean, come on, it's Adam McGowan. He's like one of our goats. It's Adam McGowan and David Cronenberg. Canadian cinema as a national cinema is theirs. Make no mistakes about it. And then after the fire. Ooh, been going nearly an hour, yo. So it's come from France. With slow burning intensity, Mehdi Fakhri's gripping feature debut follows a grieving family in their quest for justice after the police slaying of a young man in the suburbs of Strasbourg, France. Flames lick of flesh, flanking and stoking fear street agitations in a working class immigrant French suburb of Strasbourg. Karam, a 25-year-old man, has been murdered at the hands of the police. Devastated by the news, his estranged sister, Malika, reunites with her family, compelled to seek justice for her slain brother, strategizing with mentally community organizers Slim and suave private lawyer Mr. Harchi. Maliki soon begins to face a courtroom battle with overwhelming media exposure while contending with the growing chaos of her hectic everyday. Missed daycare meetings, a failing business, and a strained marriage. But she and her siblings, Driss and Noor, are anchored by their renewed blood ties. Together they harness the fire of public outrage against a racist criminal justice system. Right, facts. Following his tensely paced monochromatic short Descent, Fakhri returns to the municipally neglected hyper-police Benlius in the peripheries of Strasbourg and this incandescent social realist woman-led drama. After the fire solidifies Fakhri's prowess in telegraphing not only states of crisis, but also their disquieting aftermath, is at once a sleek procedural and an absorbing study of a family grappling with the sulky repercussions of rage and attempting to find recourse. And then the final one is Flipside. And yeah, for all these movies, I'll try to do some red carpets. I did 4 last year. You know, I've got some more sit-down interviews this year. And I'll be making those YouTube shorts. I've got some Zoom interviews. Those will come out probably September, October. But I'm going to have a lot of shorts between this and Fantasia. Oh my God, I'm going to have a lot of shorts to sprinkle out throughout the year. Because I'm basically like handing up the interviewing game for a little bit. I got a thesis to write. I'm a master's student now, graduate student. I'll be busy. Chris Wilcha helps adapt This American Life to television. His new documentary embodies the spirit of that show as he tries to save a New Jersey record store. And his comic yet deeply moving reflection on opportunities lost and gained. 20 years ago, Chris Wilcha was a young filmmaker on the rise. He directed the subversive documentary The Target Shoots First, where he infiltrated the corporate music beast of Columbia House Records. He enjoyed a creative utopia adapting This American Life from radio to television for 2 seasons. But like many independent filmmakers, Wilcha couldn't keep a streak of good luck going. He moved from New York to Los Angeles, where he wound up directing TV commercials to support his family and lost momentum on his passion projects. In Flipside, Wilcha grapples with all the second guessing that comes with middle age. He has an epiphany to return to the New Jersey record store where he worked as a teenage clerk. Perhaps in the dusty stacks of records, he'll find his youthful zeal. The store is barely hanging on, and Wilcha becomes determined to save it. In the process of looking back, he gets inspired to revisit the half-finished documentaries that exist only on his hard drives. He pulls up old interviews that no one has seen with creative people who face their own crossroads, including radio host Ira Glass, writers Starlee Kine, jazz photographer Herman Leonard, and television writer David Milch. The passage of time brings a deep poignancy to the testimonies. This American Life has a reputation for featuring skilled storytellers weaving disparate connections into a larger theme. Wilcha embodies this spirit. His quest might be personal, but many viewers will see themselves in it. And that's it. That's what I got. That's what I got. Wait. Wednesday, 12:45 p.m. Nope. Okay. Yeah. This has been helpful for me to check some things. I'm going to do some adjustments to my schedule based on this stream. So I hope you dug it. It was definitely helpful for me. I've been talking for nearly an hour, so I'm going to log off. But, stay tuned to this channel. I'm going to have a lot of film festival content over the next year.